The ancient ones are awakening in this modern world is a message I've been getting pretty loudly over the past 3 years. However, as we've been leading up to these big changes that we're going through on the earth right now, that voice is getting louder. That message is getting louder. I feel the reverberation going through my bones in a louder way. The ancient ones are awakening in a modern world. So what does it mean to be awake according to kind of current psychology, older psychiatry of Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud when they talked about consciousness? But it's kind of categorized into 3 categories. So the way it's kind of described is if you have an iceberg floating in the water, what you can see above the water's surface is called consciousness. So you're awake, your consciousness, everything that you are conscious of above the water. What you can see kind of just below the water, if you were floating in a boat and you could see the ice below the water, then that's kind of a pre-consciousness. So that means it's a level of consciousness that you might not use on a regular basis every day, minute to minute, but if you really sat in the quiet, like in meditation, then you would be able to kind of go a little deeper and pull out some from that kind of pre-conscious state. Unconsciousness is that part of the iceberg that you cannot see at all. It is deep, deep, deep underneath the water, and it's so deep that the black of the water obscures this information. And for most of us, we can only access that really deep, deep conscious state, subconscious, unconscious state, if we either have a therapist that can help us work through that, or maybe you can go to see a healer like a psychic or a healer to help you kind of dismantle those pieces so that the subconscious can rise to the surface. So that's what consciousness is. So you're awake to your consciousness and you're asleep to your unconsciousness. So the ancient ones have been around since the beginning of time. Now for us as humans, we are a spirit, you are a soul having a human experience. Your human self is what we kind of call of that third dimensional world. It can kind of function in a rudimentary way. You can drive a car, you can make meals, you can engage, but what really brings us to life is our relationship with our soul. So the ancient ones are part of your bones. In fact, you are an ancient one. And that was one of the things that I was reminded of about giving this talk, is that you're only here on the earth because you have the ancient knowledge and wisdom and understanding of how to survive this huge time of change. But we're buried underneath layers and layers and layers of pain. Now that layers of pain comes up, kind of looks to me as a clairvoyant of layers of energy. So imagine that you had 1,000 wool blankets on top of you, and somebody starts peeling off those blankets. You're going to get lighter and lighter and lighter, and then the actual sunlight's going to be able to kind of come through those layers of blankets. But each layer that gets peeled off, then the brightness of who you are comes to the surface. So that's what I teach. That's what meditation does. That's what life experiences do for us, is it helps kind of bring what's subconscious, preconscious into that conscious state for us. But sometimes when I say pain, people will think kind of literal pain, but pain can be second guessing, it can be doubt, it can be insecurity, it can be jealousy, it can be not feeling good enough or worthy, panic attacks, depression. All those can be what I categorize as pain. It creates discomfort in the body, but it may not be literal pain like a broken leg. So I want to explain that as well. But I want to explain about what does that mean that ancient ones are awakening now in a modern world. Well, if you go back and kind of study the Mayan calendar and the ancient calendars of the ancient civilizations that were really great at mathematics, even in Hinduism, they talk about these cycles of time of being this 26,000 year cycle. And out of that 26,000 year cycle, it can be broken up into 5,000 year cycles, or I can't remember if it's 5,100, something like that. But every kind of cluster of that 5,000 years is like masculine divine, feminine divine, masculine divine, feminine divine, masculine divine, feminine divine. So every kind of 5,000 year cycle, we're kind of moving through the male and the female aspects of divine consciousness. And so what's happening for us now is that we're moving out of that patriarchal system that we could learn more from, about taking action, about being in a physical body, about how to move energy, how to manifest in a physical world. So it's very action oriented. The feminine aspect, or the matriarchal system, is much more receptive. It's much more about having a thought and changing the energy, having an intuitive sense, and opening your heart and say, so it is, it will be, it will manifest. It's a much lighter and brighter form of manifestation. So, kind of according to all this kind of conscious awakening talk that we've been listening to, we're moving from that patriarchal to the matriarchal, and in fact, that's already happened. And according to some of the information that's out there, I think it happened like around May 26 here in 2021. So just to kind of let you know, we're right at the tail end of the patriarchy, right at the beginning part of the matriarchy. So what's happening is we're going lighter and brighter, lighter and brighter. As you get lighter and brighter, those layers shed. So what does that mean again about the ancient ones that are awakening in a modern world? What it means is that the ancient ones, they remember, they are of the earth. They remember what it's like to feel one with the stars and feel one with the earth. They were in harmony and in balance. They knew that once the leaves started dropping off the trees, that they were going to be heading into winter. I mean, you knew all these signals. A certain flower might bloom, which would indicate something else. The animals might start mating, which indicates something else. So they were really aligned with the system and the rhythms of our connection with nature and your true nature. Not just the nature of the stars and the galaxies, not just the nature of the earth, but your true nature as well. So that's where we're really heading. But when this information is saying the ancient ones are awakening, that means that as we peel back the layers of the earth, as the frequency of the earth goes up, their high level of knowledge and consciousness is coming to the surface so that we can have access to that. I just had a huge conversation with some elders that are friends of mine, and we were talking about how these high levels of ancient knowledge, we've always known that they come through the indigenous cultures. The indigenous cultures have really passed on through the oral tradition how to remain connected to the earth. But for a lot of us, we haven't had that connection. But what's happening now is that the ancient ones are starting to awaken us. They're waking up in our bones, because if you go back far enough in your own ancestral lineages, you will find that your ancestors were also indigenous. But for some of you, it might be 20,000 years ago before you find that level of indigeny where your ancestors remembered they were one. So there's this huge awakening that's happening on the earth. So when I was speaking to the elders about this, I talk about the dreams that I have where I will feel like I'm in the middle of stone circles, or I see spirals carved in the stones. I see really ancient symbols everywhere, seeing sacred geometry. I know I'm not the only one that's experiencing this. And in fact, what I know is that many of you are starting to experience these sorts of things, but you don't know what's happening. And I think that's why the ancient ones wanted me to explain this, that as you awaken, as they bring this ancient knowledge back to the surface of consciousness, what has been subconscious for us is beginning to rise to that pre-conscious state, to that fully conscious state. So we're we're in this process of being fully awakened to not only our own indigeneity, but also being awakened to our own ancient wisdom and ancient knowledge. So in ancestral work, it is believed that, we are connected to our ancestors to this day through our DNA, through our genetics. It is believed that we hold the knowledge and the wisdom and the life experience in our bones, in the marrow of who you are at that core level. So the ancient ones are going to come through who they are able to come through. Excuse me. It's not selective. It's whoever is open to this ancient wisdom, this ancient knowledge, they're going to start kind of awakening you. Those who are ready, those who are willing. I did a talk on the Hathors, the blue light movement page, and I've made a video on this. But in that video, what they were saying was that the Egyptians were willing students. But we've just come through that 5,000 year period of time of battles and war and fighting and corruption and power struggles, and so we're coming through this kind of fighting, and now we're living in this age now where we don't trust authority. But that's also part of the divine plan. In that divine plan, you're supposed to be discerning now on what authority figures you're going to listen to. But ultimately, the person you're going to listen to the most is your own inner authority. So that's why we're going through this enormous accelerated growth of internal development of our intuitive instincts, our intuitive precision, our intuitive sensitivities. We're all growing intuitively, but we just might not know it yet. Again, what has been at the subconscious level is coming to a conscious level. So again, what's happening and what I invite you to do is to really kind of sit in a quiet place and light a candle. I like to pour a cup of coffee or a cup of tea for my ancestors, but sit in quiet meditation and ask to feel, to experience. Ask your ancient ancestors that hold this wisdom, that are awakening this ancient knowledge and wisdom within you. Ask them to step forward. Allow yourself to experience and feel into what this ancient wisdom feels like, this ancient level of consciousness. I can tell you, I've got a battle going on here, and because what this battle is that I've lived 62 years on this earth, and boy, I was born in the 60s, so we just know a lot has changed since the 60s. I can still remember not that long ago, 25 years ago, hardly anybody had cell phones, so we're really growing quickly in that way. However, the knowledge that I'm getting now, it's not coming through from books. It's not coming through from television programs. It's not coming through from teachers. Some of this knowledge is just now awakening today on this earth. So we must take that time to really listen to what that knowledge is to help carry not only you, but our community consciousness forward into the future. That we're going to be able to see with these eyes and hear with these ears in ways that we never have been able to before because it wasn't available to us. So as these ancient ones are rising up out of the earth to bring this knowledge to us, we must be ready. It's a modern world. They're going to help us to bring through this ancient knowledge and make it relatable here now. Make it relatable to the consciousness that we have on the earth now. So I'm going to be making videos over the next few weeks all related to this similar subject, because here we are, this time that we're in August is all about the power of love. We just had on August 8th the Lion's Gate portal opening of the planet Sirius, which in many indigenous cultures is known as the second sun. Also really signals a great time of awakening. We've been going through this for months, and it doesn't look to me like we're going to be slowing down at all. So settle in, center in, light a candle, allow yourself to open and awaken your own consciousness to embracing a higher level of knowledge that's coming through. And yeah, they just might come through you if you are open and willing. But again, always be quite discerning. You can call in guides and angels, Jesus, Mary, Buddha, whoever you want to surround yourself with when you want to really kind of feel the frequency in your bones and in your marrow of the ancient, ancient, ancient wisdom of your ancestors that are awakening inside of you. So, thank you again for listening in. I'd love to hear your comments. If you've had experiences with the ancient ones, your ancient ancestors coming through to you, this is a really incredible time. And as I always say, we're much stronger together than we ever were apart. And so let's just keep supporting, loving, being kind to each other, and keep supporting each other as we awaken to this new knowledge to share it moving forward. Take care, everyone.